Is it becoming inevitable, do you think?
I haven't seen the poll, but I'm not surprised. I think it was always pretty likely. You and I discussed this, that Boris Johnson, while he might be appealing in the north of England, is everything that the Scots despise about the English in one corpulent body. And it was always, in my view, a big risk that the emergence of Boris from the Brexit imbroglio would actually strengthen the case for independence. I think Brexit itself and the way that it took up all the oxygen in British politics for 4 years became an argument for Scottish independence. I campaigned energetically in 2014 against independence. I would not have the same fire in the belly if I had to do it again. And I would be, I think, a good deal less confident in my arguments that Scotland's future lies in the Union than I was 4 years ago. I do my best because I don't really believe in the independence project. That idea that Nicola Sturgeon would like us to have of Scotland is as a sort of Scandinavian or Baltic country, but it's actually much more Balkan to my eyes, the way the SNP runs Scotland. And I think it would be much more Balkan in its performance in the event of independence. It would be quite a poor country, let's face it. And nobody really does want to face that as they sing Flower of Scotland into their wee dram. My attempt to make my peace with this, Iain, has come from reading the novels of Walter Scott, which I'd never read until this year. Somehow there was a prejudice against Scott in my young day. He was considered boring. And in fact, he's not. Scott is a wonderful writer, and I am besotted with the Waverley and its successors, the great series of novels that Scott wrote. And I think for any Scot, or indeed any English reader, or Welsh for that matter, it's absolutely fascinating to be reminded of the contingencies that brought Scotland and England together. And there were contingencies. The fact that Elizabeth I had no issue and James VI succeeded to the throne. The fact that the Scots went bankrupt in the Darien disaster and had, in effect, to unite the parliaments. I've come round to the view that we should not regard these political arrangements as set in stone, inexorable and unchangeable. And maybe in the end, it is for the best if we turn the clock back all the way to the 16th century and run the experiment of an independent Scotland. Just let's remember what Scotland was like, though, before its merger with England. It was essentially the Afghanistan of early modern Europe, an extraordinary place that combined warring mountain clans, extraordinary bloodthirsty in their culture, and fanatical Calvinists in the lowlands. It was a singularly unpleasant and dangerous place, far more violent than England. And essentially Scottish history looked steadily up the more the Scots integrated with England. I'm at this point, having been away from Scotland for many years, inclined to say, good luck, best of luck with independence. I shall watch from afar, but try to avoid becoming the Afghanistan of Europe again, because that wasn't much fun.
My concern is, well, other than just the fact that I'm Scottish and British, and it would involve the breakup of my country, Britain. My concern is that you'd be reawakening a lot of those old tensions and enmities, that essentially the Union was a solution to a problem, which was that England saw itself as having a hostile power to the north that was prepared to consort with France and others. And here the nationalist plan is to carry on apparently still trading with England as is now, expecting the English to be nice about it while attempting to rejoin the EU, which the English are not very keen on. So I think it would open up a sort of historical set of questions which the Scots haven't had to think about for several hundred years. Anyway, let's see.
It might do them good, Iain. It might do everybody some good to think about this stuff again. And perhaps after a period of what would be rather impoverished independence, they might come back and seek to renegotiate the union in just the same way that at some point there'll have to be some renegotiation of the relationship with Europe, because what we're currently moving towards, I think, is not really workable for the long term. So I think as an historian, I'm more and more inclined to see institutional arrangements of the sort we're discussing as liable to change over time, and rarely, if ever, set in stone. And that part of the way to make your peace with life is to accept that such changes may happen on your watch, and maybe for the worse, but maybe, in fact, at this point, inevitable. So I'm no longer in that state of mind I was in 2014, that this would be, the end of the country I belong to, because I think that's the wrong way to think about the world. Things change, they are in flux, and that surely is the most important insight of history.